Well, so this is Baruch Fleischman here, and we're really coming towards the end of the story of Rabbi Bar Bar Chana and the analysis of Rabbi Nachman the BRESLEV, exactly what the meaning of that story is. So let's come down below here and let's see we're on this phrase. So we saw them sawing from its bones, that is, in consequence of their evil deeds, which were etched upon their bones, with the etching crossing over from side to side, exactly like a saw mark. Now he says this is an interesting idea. Another place, or maybe it's this place, and I don't remember, that Rabbi Nachman says that when we make mistakes, and particularly a sexual Avera type mistake, but any mistake, it actually becomes a part of us. Becomes a part of our bones. It etches its way into our bones, into the basic structure of our life, and everything we do for every step we take. I like that kind of idea. It's affected by the structural effect. So he said, with the etching crossing over, but here's a new idea, from side to side. It's like not just in one place, but it actually goes all the way through, exactly like a saw mark, going from one side to the next. He has a little arichas here on this number 192. And I guess we could see it here. So on this phrase, evil deeds, and then the concept of crossing over like a saw mark, as explained above, he says in section 5, etc., in investigating how Malchus could be elevated, Rabbi Bar Bar Chana took note of a Jew who was having difficulty praying, and turned to the tzaddik to help him repent. Rabbi understood that this Jew, by repenting, would bring rectification for himself and his aspect of Malchus. What bothered him, though, was the fate of those outside the realm of holiness, whose bones had been etched upon them by their sins. Not only would they have no rectification, but they would also continue to blemish Malchus of holiness and prevent its ascent into Ein Sof. Neither this paragraph nor the explanation that closes this section of the lesson appears in the manuscript version of Likutei Maharan. Rather, we find with this we can understand how it is that the nations are able to rule. It's because of the small impurity mentioned above. Now, this sounds very, very deep now. For the Jew had performed the 3 steps, and it was to be expected that Malchus would ascend from among the nations. The answer is that there are people who are behind holiness. These wicked people, and this is the kinds behind, not supporting it, but have their backs to holiness. These wicked people disempower Malchus. They work against it. And they empower the nations and enable them to rule. Here the published version was given preference over the manuscript, as was the version the commentaries of Likutei Maharan addressed. Now, I have to think about this. I'm not sure that I understood the whole idea there. And I like to move along. Here we have, let's look at analyze his explanation, if you don't mind. He says, we'll look at it deeply. He says, as deep as I could get it, evil deeds and crossing over, right? He says, I'm looking for, first of all, I was looking for the concept of crossing over. Because one thing is to be etched on, the other is that it actually goes from one side to the next. So I don't understand what that means. So he says, in investigating how Malchus could be elevated. Now, what is the whole idea here? Malchus, the Malchus of the Malchus of the Malchus, you can do that 10 times. You come down to where we're at. This world is a polluted world, a world of tremendous, tremendous impurity, and we're in the midst of it. So he says, we need to elevate that. Now, he says this idea, Rabbi Bar Chana took note of a Jew. There was a certain story about a Jew who was having difficulty praying and turned to the tzaddik, I guess that's Rabbi Bar Chana, to help him repent. Now, Rabbi Bar Chana understood that this Jew, by repenting, and this is talking about all of us, so we're coming over here to Yom Kippur, would bring rectification for himself and his aspect of Malchus. That's an idea right there. That a person is, every individual is and can be and manifest his aspect of Malchus. What is Malchus? That may be tikkun there. In order to be able, Malchus is the ultimate receptacle of Kedusha. What bothered him, though, was the fate of those outside the realm of holiness. So here is a man who's going to bring a tremendous rectification because he came back to Shem from way, way out. And many of us do this. It takes a lot of bravery because the culture, the Torah culture, the core culture, be strange, foreign to people who are far away. As you'll see as we go through the Chaim Beinart things of what happened to Jews along the way, because many lost Jews amongst the nations, many, many. Just like he talks over here about the other metaphor, which is much of the light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, is also lost amongst the nations. Anyway, let's go on. What bothered him, though, was the fate of those outside of the realm of holiness, which is said behind holiness, whose bones have etched upon them their sins. In other words, they're stuck in that. I talked about this yesterday, about the last time anyway. That they're stuck in the cycles of life. Not only will they have no rectification, but they will also continue to blemish Malchus because it's a flaw. They're going the wrong way, and prevent its ascent into the Ein Sof. Now, he goes on and says like this, neither this paragraph nor the explanation that closes the section of this lesson appears in the manuscript version of Likutei Maharan. Now, I'm not familiar with what is the manuscript version, but that's the original. I guess he means that's the original writing of Reb Nosson, other Likutei Maharan. We'll find out as we read along. Rather, we find this. With this we can understand. Rather, we find what with this we can understand how it is that the nations are able to rule. So this is written in here. It's because of the small impurity that was mentioned above, because the impurity which causes anyway, for the Jew had performed the 3 steps. And I'm not sure what he meant by the 3 steps. I'm not sure where he mentioned the 3 steps, but I might have, hey, I could forget it. And it was to be expected that Malchus would ascend from among the nations. It was expected that that's what's happened. They would elevate Malchus from amongst the nations. So, after completing the 3 steps, again, I don't know. This is some kind of a tshuva. I don't know. The answer is that there are people who are behind holiness. And this is the concept that he wants to say. So I'm stuck. I don't know what the 3 steps were. So I'm really stuck back in that thought. But let's just move on. Which is the advice, incidentally, that all the Kabbalists say, and so does Rebbe Nachman. These wicked people disempower Malchus because the people who are actually pulling against it. And I think I was raised as a Reformed Jew. And I could tell you there's nothing good going on there. I used to say, when I actually found my way to tradition, I used to say that the funeral home has more life in it than the Reformed temple. It's just a place where people go, their souls go to die. So he says, at any rate, these wicked people disempower Malchus. And they empower, which would say the Malchus is the revelation of the Torah. And they empower the nations and enable them to rule because of our own people who are pulling in the wrong direction. I think we're going to stop the shiur here right now. This is Baruch Fleischman at the Tikkun Elevator Kolo.